Hi, I'm Rod Bryant. Welcome to another session of the YPS, the Yeshiva Perkei Shoshanim's class on the Noahide Mitzvot and Lifestyle course. We have been dealing with Noahide identity for the last 3 sessions. We actually have a couple of more sessions dealing with the same subject. Now, one may ask, well, why are so many sessions devoted to this question of Noahide identity? I would think that the vast majority of discussions and thought process for B'nai Noach when he comes out of his religious views from the past will often wrestle with who am I? Or actually, how do I let other people know what I am? I would venture to say that even after these sessions dealing with Noahide identity, you're still going to have a difficult time trying to describe who you actually are, because most people have no idea what a Noahide is. And I would venture to say that many Jews may not even know exactly what a Noahide is. That's the reason why this class is so important, that you are able to verbalize and understand what a Noahide is and what your identity is. Now, what you call yourself after may be a different thing based on the community that you are speaking to. I think that most Noahides who try to describe themselves to a non-religious person will often say, well, I practice Judaism, but I'm not a Jew. And that suffices to be a good answer that most people accept. Now, obviously, if they wanted to delve into it and wanted to understand what it is, they could say, my religion is Judaism, but I'm not Jewish. I practice Judaism for the non-Jew. There are many ways that you can construct that to describe yourself. But honestly, until the world knows what Ben or Bat Noach is, or what Noahide is, you're going to have a tough time trying to explain yourself. So let's get right into this. Actually, I understand that these last 3 and this 4th and 5th session will be relatively short. The reason why is we're trying to compile all this information. We could have put it in one super long class, but we prefer to do it in sort of bite-sized lessons so that you can take time to go to the sources. And while we're speaking of sources, make sure you avail yourself of all the sources at the bottom of each page. Take time to go to the sources, look them up on the internet. They're all readily available. And if they're not available, if you have a rabbi that you can go to and say, hey, could you confirm these sources and help me have an understanding of this, many will do that. Let's add a caveat to that. If you have not become part of this very exciting Q&A feature for the Noahide on Sunday evening at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, you must do it. We have an average of 20 to 30 people in a class asking questions from the class. And look, it doesn't have to be limited to just the sessions that you have done. If you have other questions that you would like to ask, well, that would be the time to ask it. We now literally have people from all over the world that are taking this very exciting course that will help bring the message of righteousness to the nations and appeal to the pious people of the nations to understand who they are, to understand what Hashem thinks of you, and also for you to understand what the Jewish people think of you. We're now going to go ahead and start session 5 or 4, Noahide identity. What is a Noahide? The big, great question. Now, the term Ben Noach, or Noahide, or B'nai Noach, which is plural for Noahide, occurs about 50 places in the Talmud and Rashi. However, it is used primarily as a simple meaning, a child of Noah. It's a generic term for all non-Jews. Is it possible that the term Ben Noach or Noahide implies more? Well, of course, and we're going to find out. Is there actual positive identity called Noahide? Bava Kama 38a, according to the Talmud, God altered the reward that Noahides may earn for their mitzvahs. Quoting Habakkuk 3:6. Talmud Bava Kama 38a offers the following interpretation. Quote, he, that is God, arose and judged the land. He saw and released the nations. He, God, he, meaning God, saw the 7 commandments that the descendants of Noah had accepted upon themselves. Since they did not observe them, he released them. Now, according to Rav Yosef, this passage teaches that God released the non-Jews from the obligation of the Noahide laws. However, the other sages reject this interpretation. Of course, we know that. But now, if you have an opinion, you might have a rejection of an opinion. The Gentiles, their opinion or their idea says this: the Gentiles should be punished for neglecting their laws, not rewarded for being released from them. Now, Marson Ravinia poses another possibility, that even if the Gentiles fulfill their commandments, they will never receive reward for doing so. The implication, of course, is that they will suffer punishment for not keeping the mitzvahs. Now, the Talmud also rejects this interpretation, citing Leviticus 18:5 as a proof that non-Jews do receive their reward for keeping their commandments. It says, quoting, that man shall perform and again and gain life. Now, the verse does not state Cohen or Levi or Israel, but man. And we would understand that mean a generic term for all mankind, Jews and Gentiles. Now, a third interpretation settles the question. In Tractate Kiddushin, the Talmud explains that the reward of a person who fulfills an obligatory mitzvah is greater than the reward of one who fulfills a voluntary mitzvah. The Talmud here in Bava Kama 38a concludes that God altered the nature of the reward that Gentiles would receive for keeping their commandments. Although the Gentiles are still obligated to observe the Noahide laws, the Talmud is telling us that the reward they receive is only the lesser reward of one who fulfills a commandment voluntarily. Examine again Bava Kama 38a and Mishnah's Rabbi Eliezer, appears from the Talmud that Gentiles can only receive the lesser reward of one who fulfills a voluntary commandment and have no way to merit the greater reward for one who fulfills an obligatory commandment. Hope that's not confusing. However, in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer tells us that this is not so. If we compare the Talmud's conclusion to the Mishnah's Rabbi Eliezer, we see that the latter grants the Talmud's lesser reward to those who keep the Noahide laws based on their own reason. It grants that the greater reward to those who keep the Noahide laws because of Noahide revelation or Noahidic revelation. The Mishnah's Rabbi Eliezer also tells us that the Talmud's lesser reward is a temporary reward of this world and the greater reward in the eternal world to come. Kedushi Hagritz, the Or Shomeach, and Rabbi Malki Tenenbaum, the 19th century and 20th century rabbis, a number of authorities on Maimonides, including Yitzhak Zev Soloveitchik and Mir Simcha HaKohen and Melki Tenenbaum, independently advanced the nearly identical interpretations of paragraph 11 in the Talmud that relate directly back to the Bava Kama 38b. Their understanding not only illuminates Maimonides, but also clarifies our understanding of the Talmud. They explain that the Gentile nations are originally bound in their observance of the Noahide laws by force of the Noahidic covenant. Iteration of the Noahide laws at Sinai, however, transferred the authority of its original Noahidic covenant to the Sinai covenant. Noahides would now be bound in their covenant not because of Adam and Noah, but because of Moses transmitting the Torah at Sinai. So therefore, the transmission of the Noahide laws from Moses to the world, to the nations, to include the Israelites, sort of cements it for the future for all mankind. Therefore, when the Talmud states that God released the Gentiles, it means that he released them from the binding forces of the original covenant. In order to become obligated to this new Sinaitic covenant, a Gentile must accept the Noahide laws anew. After all, the Jews had not accepted their covenant. Once a Gentile does so, he becomes obligated in the Noahide laws and receives his reward as one who is obligated. Until a Gentile accepts this new Sinai affirmation, are we to say that he has no obligation at all to keep the Noahide laws? Well, the Talmud tells us that this is not so. Though the original authority of the original Noahidic covenant ceased, Gentiles are still punished for transgressing the Noahide laws. Where this not the case, Gentiles would be profiting from having long neglected the Noahide laws. The punishment meted for not observing the laws is therefore a legal technicality, so the non-Jew should not profit by their transgression. The force of the original covenant, however, is no longer binding. Therefore, there is no conventional imperative for any Gentile to observe the Noahide laws until he accepts the Sinai reaffirmation in these laws. Until a Gentile makes such an acceptance, any observance of the Noahide laws is voluntary. And his reward, the temporary reward in this world, is commensurate to this fact that he is observing these laws just by sheer accident or common sense. Once a Gentile accepts the Noahide laws as per the Sinai reaffirmation, he becomes bound by them and receives the higher reward of one who fulfills an obligatory commandment. Understanding Maimonides would have derived from a paragraph 11 from the Talmud, from this understanding of the Talmud in Bava Kama 38a. All that remains then is to explain the equating of the Talmud's greater reward with that of the world to come. The Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer, may serve as a source for that. But what about Maimonides' requirement that the Gentiles accept their laws based on the Sinai reaffirmation rather than the original Noahidic covenant? Well, Maimonides' disagreement with the Mishnah's Rabbi Eliezer on this point is not surprising. The Talmud and its commentaries discuss the nullification of the original Noahidic covenant and the reaffirmation of the Noahide laws in Sanhedrin 59a. This is necessary to explain the repetition of the Noahide laws at Sinai. Maimonides states his view clearly in his commentary on the Mishnah. All that we do or do not do is solely because of the command of the Holy One, blessed be He, through our teacher Moshe. May he rest and may peace be upon him. And not because of the Holy One, blessed be He, stated it by any prophet who came before him. For example, he did not eat the limb torn from a living animal because God forbid it to Noah, but rather because Moses forbade it at Sinai by reaffirming it, and remains in effect to this day. Similarly, we do not circumcise because our forefather Abraham, may peace be upon him, himself circumcised himself in his household, but rather because the Holy One, blessed be He, commanded the Jewish people through Moses, may peace be upon him. So too, with the sciatic nerve, the prohibition to eat in the sciatic nerve, we do not obey the prohibition because our forefather Yaakov, but because of the commanded our teacher Moshe. May you rest in peace. We see here that Maimonides acknowledges that the Noahide laws were binding before Sinai. However, Maimonides is telling us that their covenantal status changed from Noahide to Sinai at the giving of the Torah, meaning that prior to the giving of the Torah, it was the Noahide laws, it was because of Noah, it was because of Adam, etc. But after Sinai, it was because God gave Moses the laws to pass forward. While this paragraph speaks of the Jewish obligation to keep the original Noahide laws based on the Sinai covenant, according to paragraph 11, clarifies this as is also true of the Noahide obligation. In this interpretation of Maimonides and the requirement that Noahides accept their obligation based on the Sinai reaffirmation, there is a very little disagreement among later authorities. Lastly, how do we explain Maimonides' omission of reward for those who observe the commandments based on reason? The sources we have cited thus far agree with the, quote, the wise people of the nations receive reward through their observance of the Noahide laws. Now, it is through only a lesser or temporary reward in this world that they receive that. Nevertheless, they receive a reward. They explained that Maimonides' omission does not imply his rejection of the concept. It is likely, given that in paragraph 11 of that section of the Talmud is discussing the obligation upon the Gentiles to accept the Noahide laws based on Sinai and its revelation, that it was not the place to discuss any reward for non-acceptance of these laws. Additionally, since the Talmud has already drawn their clear conclusions regarding the lower reward, is coming only to explain the mechanism by which non-Jews may merit the eternal reward of the world to come. In next session, session 5 of this very important topic, the Noahide identity and who is a Noahide, we're going to discuss these in a bit more detail so that we sort of flatten out the technicalities of this law. I want to remind you that when we have discussions in these classes, it sometimes seems a bit complicated and wordy. This is the nature of law, period. If you go to any law library in the United States or in the world, per se, and begin to read court case law and decisions that are made by judges, etc., you're going to find wording that is very technical. And the reason why that it's technical, it has to eliminate any possibility of misunderstanding. And for a layperson who comes and just reads a law book, and they look at that, and it can be confusing. And in no way is the great sages of Judaism trying to confuse anyone. If anything, they're trying to bring out better understanding. So be patient in your study of Torah if you're a non-Jew. Be patient with your rabbi that is attempting to explain these things to you that sometimes appears to be legalese doublespeak. It's not. It is a careful attention to detail on Torah law that is important, and it has to be explained. If you don't understand something, ask questions. Go to the chat section on the side here and ask questions. We'll answer them to our best of our ability. And join us on Sunday evenings at 4 p.m. for a great discussion with other Noahides from around the world, asking questions about this very exact coursework. So until next class, shalom.